君たちの力が必要だ。共に戦おう。世界のために。僕はセシル。
Yo, what's up? Lad here. How's it going? This week, we've got a great collaboration happening. Hop on to the Red Wings because we're heading to the Blue Planet. There's going to be a total of 4 collaboration characters, so let's go ahead and get started. Firstly, the main character of this collaboration, our very own Cecil. He is a light and dark warrior of the Fame faction and hailing from the Final Fantasy IV collab. As a free unit, he'll be one of the best damage tanks in the entire game. But wait, there's also more. He's also a decent breaker to enemies that are weak to light, dark, and of course, swords. When it comes to free travelers, COTC does a fantastic job. It's difficult to find gacha games where free units are almost as competitive as the gacha units, so shout out to the team behind COTC for that. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out Cecil. He is voiced by our very own Strabo from Love Alive. Shizuma Hodoshima is the voice behind Cecil. He doesn't have too many notable roles other than these two, but Cecil is still one of the cooler Final Fantasy characters from the early days back then. With that, let's head over to his notable damaging skills. His first ability is a 65 cost SP that becomes 52 once you level it up. It's a 3-hit single target sword physical damage attack that exploits light. This has a potency of 65. And with Paladin active, which is his passive, where anytime he gets hit, he activates this. We'll talk more about that once we get to his passives. But with the Paladin buff active, he gives himself a 25% max HP barrier. Second ability is an SP cost of 72 that becomes 58. It's a 4-hit single target sword physical damage attack that again exploits light. With Paladin active, this gains a 20% potency up. His third ability is his TP skill. It's an SP cost of 63. It's a 3-hit AoE sword physical damage attack that exploits light, and with Paladin active, this becomes a 5-hitter. And lastly, for his last attack, it's an SP cost of 65 that becomes 52. If he has more than 20% HP, he consumes 20% HP. He deals a 4-hit single target sword physical damage attack that exploits dark. This has a potency of 65. And also lowers the physical defense and elemental defense of the enemy for 15% for 2 turns. For his EX skill, Paladin has to be active. He gets 2 usages. It's a 6-hit single target physical sword damage attack that exploits both light and dark. It has a potency of 60. For his ultimate, level 1 to level 10, it's a 5-hit single target sword physical attack that exploits light, potency 85 at level 1 and 100 at level 10. And then he gains Paladin for 3 turns. For his notable support skills, it's an SP cost of 18. He goes first. He reduces any damage taken from enemies from 20% to 50% depending on the boost level. And he gives himself a 1-turn ability to take damage for one ally. And this is for both single target damage and AoE damage. Now for his passives. His first passive, he gives himself a 10% HP recovery for damage received, and every time he gets hit, he activates Paladin, which is a physical and elemental resist of 5%. At 6 stars, his HP recovery goes from 10% to 15. The second passive, he gives himself a 15% attack and sword damage up, and with Paladin active, he additionally also gives himself a 15% physical and elemental defense up. For his third passive, if his HP is above 50%, he covers single target damage for an ally, and then he has a 20% resistance to light and dark. Looking at his stats, he's catered towards physical attack. As for his 6 stars, he has 464, which is on the lower side for most of the warriors we have, so don't be expecting big numbers coming from him. He again functions as a tank more than a DPS. So now for the main question, should you log in? Definitely. Cecil is not like the other free warriors, Orsted and Serenoa, where you could get them whenever you start playing the game. If our server follows a JP server, you had to log in and do the collaboration. If you miss out on this collaboration or forget to log in, you will lose a chance to get Cecil until Final Fantasy IV gets another rerun. But keep these thoughts with a grain of salt, as our server could very well be different with how NetEase wants to run this collaboration. But for now, play it safe and log in or start playing the game to redeem your free Cecil. Additionally, everyone will get the chance to get him to A4 and Ultimate level 10, so make sure you don't forget. Now let's talk about Cecil himself. For his passive, if there is a single target attack incoming, he will cover that damage for an ally, but only if he's at 50% HP or higher. This by itself is an awesome passive, as he no longer requires any accessories to invoke taunt. Nextly, for his tanking capabilities. His first passive gives him a 10% HP recovery that becomes 15% once fully leveled, and his passive Paladin when activated, which will pretty much be all the time as he'll be the one that's covering damage for your party. This is going to give him an additional 5% resistance to physical and elemental attacks. And then to further add on to that, his second passive gives him an additional 15% to physical and elemental defense when Paladin is active. So when you put everything together, he is possibly the best damage tank in the game. Now let's look at his A4 accessory. This again is going to be accessible to everyone in the game. It's a 40 to physical defense and 40 to elemental defense, and a 600 to HP. Now the defense numbers aren't all that great, but 600 to your max HP is somewhat decent. And then with this accessory, whoever has this gets a HP recovery of 500 and also a 5% physical and elemental defense up. So with this equipped onto Cecil, he'll essentially be getting 20% to physical and elemental defense if his passive, Paladin, is active of course. Now let's head over to longevity. He's gonna be here to stay. Again, he's a free traveler, and he's great at what he does. Folks in the JP server are still using him for certain battles. But other than that, not much else to say about a free character, so let's go ahead and finish up. Character designed 5 out of 5. Cecil was one of the coolest Final Fantasy characters to me growing up. I still remember the old times when I had a Super Nintendo, 6 or 7 years old, and loading on my game, and then getting lost because of my poor reading skills. Final Fantasy IV was my first Final Fantasy game I've ever played, and now I'm down the rabbit hole. Character VA 4 out of 5. I don't know much about this voice actor, but again, he voices both Cecil and Strable, so that's pretty cool. Abilities 4 out of 5. He's a damage tank and he does well, and of course again, he's free. Longevity 4 out of 5. Cover tank who can cover single target damage for your party innately will always be a great traveler to have handy. Level buffs 0 out of 5. You didn't get any. Time limited. SC is part of the Final Fantasy IV collaboration. Don't miss out because if you do, you're gonna have to wait for the next rerun. Overall impression 4 out of 5. Best damage tank in the game. This is one character who you might be able to bring to any fight that you find the enemy is doing too much damage. Again, he's our first damage tank that has an innate cover ability as his passive. The other damage tank similar to Cecil, most notably, is Obrick, but he requires you to use his defend skill at max VP to cover your allies for single target attacks, which is not sustainable every turn. Anyways, that was it for Cecil. Make sure you log in and claim him, and of course get him to A4. I'll catch you next time. Take care of yourself. Let out.